Welcome, everyone. We're so pleased to see you all here. It's a crazy time, isn't it? But it's wonderful to see you, and we're really pleased that you're all here. It's really exciting. My name is Tanner, and I work in the events team here at UEA, and we're thrilled to have you. So can you give me a really, 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 really big round of applause for Dr. Ben Little?
Hello. Nice to see you all. Nice to see you all here. Now, we're going to start off today by doing something not quite in the way we would have wanted to do it had we not all been, stuck in masks and in our seats and being very sensible. We're going to make this space ours. So we're going to start off by doing that. And one of the ways we can do that is by making a lot of noise. Now, we're going to do that in interesting and clever ways in a little bit, but I just want to get us warmed up, and I just want to get us used to shouting out and knowing that it's okay to be noisy in this space. This is a space where we want to be as noisy as possible. So, just as a practice, if you are 7 or younger, can you shout as loud as possible saying, I am, however old you are, as loud as you possibly can? Oh. Okay. Just scream. Just scream. Hello, as loud as you possibly can. Ooh, okay. If you are 8 or older, come on, show your little brothers and sisters what's what. I want you to shout as loud as you can. Hello! Okay, yeah, it's the little ones are getting drowned out there. Oh. Okay, that's fine. So, what I want you to do is, with these 2 post-it notes that hopefully you've written something on, you've got something down, your grown-ups helped you put something on, I just want to go around the room and we're going to get some of these up here onto these boards. Yeah, if we can get some, yeah. That would be brilliant. So, right, just put your hand up if you're ready to shout out, and this is your space, whatever goes. Yeah, you up there, I saw straight away, hand shooting up. Go on. Yeah, you go for number 2 first. Yeah, what the most important thing in the world is. Yeah, go for that. Oh, okay. Adults, children not being listened to. Is that good enough? Yeah. We need to listen to children more. Yeah, that's definitely a big problem in the world. Yeah, young lady? Climate change. Yeah, that's a really serious one. We're going to be thinking a little bit about that today. So we've got climate change going on that. So let's have one for this side. What things are really important to you personally? Yeah, young man. Friends. Yeah, that's a really good answer. Friends are really, really important to us. Right, up at the back, I can see a really big arm there with grown-up helping. Family. Yeah, family's really important. Friends and family. Now, how many of you, just wave at me if you put friends or family on your first post-it note. That's very, very sensible. That's really good, and I think it is really important. But how many of you said something else? How many of you have been honest, really? How many have not tried to be good and have put something on there like, I don't know, Nintendo? Anyone? Oh, you? Yeah, okay, over here. Yeah, go on. Cereal. Brilliant. That is really important. Oh, where would we be without cereal? We would all be really hungry. I would be really hungry. Yes, you. Jesus. There we go. Was that for which one? Which one? Personal to you. Okay. You got Jesus up there at the back. Yeah, young man. What? Life. Life is really important. Yes. We would not be in a good place if we did not have life. Yep. Young lady just there. Animals. Where would you want the animals to go? On which side? That side. Most important to you is animals. Yeah? Yeah, up there. Go on. Yeah, you. School's important. Oh, that's amazing. We did a practice one of this, and at the end of it, one of the kids put their hand up and said, can we close down all the schools? And I was like, no, that's not a good idea. So yes, we've got schools in a good place. You, young man, just there. Your iPad. There we go. Right, that's some good ones over there. What about on this side? What other things do we think are really important to the world? Young lady, go on. Oh. Santa. Yeah, put Santa down. Yeah, go on. Okay, boy in the blue top. Your sister. Okay, we're still on this side again. That's kind of family. We've got that one covered, but good one. So things which we think are really important facing the world. Yes, you. Pollution, that's a good one. Right at the back in the, is it an orange top? Louder? Everyone in the world. So people in general, society. Okay, that's good. Yeah, society, I think. Okay, I think we're doing quite well. We're doing quite well. We've got Santa. We've got iPads. I'm happy. Right, brilliant. So, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Round of applause for the elves. Amazing elves. Oh. And here we go. There we are. Right, so congratulations. Well done. Now, what you have just done is you have claimed this space as a democratic space. Right, and that means it's for the people, it's for us. This space is now for us. And what you've done is you've shared things which by themselves would just be opinions. Things which are important to you, things which are important to the world. But all together, you put them together, and actually what we've got is we've got politics. We're trying to work out what's important to us, to everyone, collectively, individually, and then we're trying to work out what we should do about it. And that's kind of what this lecture is about today. What we should do to make the world a better place, but remembering that we all have those things on that side going on too. So, I'm Ben Little, I teach here, I'm a lecturer in media and cultural politics. Actually, mostly what I do is I teach stuff like we're doing today. So I run whole courses, well not whole courses, whole modules. So you'll spend 6 months if you came here and studied politics doing something like this with me. And what I'm trying to do today is get you to think about what you need to do to make the world a better place. And the big thing here is you don't have to be a superhero. You don't have to be a superhero to save the world. Nope, you don't. Not necessary at all. But we probably do need to save the world. And I don't mean we need to save the world in terms of save the actual world. The world's going to be fine. It's going to be here whether we are or not. We probably do need to think about how we can keep the world to be a nice place for us to live. And that's going to be really important. And we've probably got 10, maybe 20 years to get this right. Otherwise, we're going to be in for a bit of a rough ride. And that doesn't sound like any fun at all. Now, the good news is that we've got lots of ideas in our culture about the things that we can do to make the world a better place, to save it. Unfortunately, I would say that a lot of those are wrong. Oh dear. So I'm going to take you through how we think about it, what we might want to do, and then I'm going to get us right at the end to think about doing a little bit of saving ourselves. Okay, so when I was a kid, when I was, the age of the younger people in the room, this was what saving the world looked like to me, and I loved it. And we can even say it. Here we go. Wind, water, hot.
By your powers combined,
I am Captain Planet. Captain Planet, he's a hero. Enough of that, right? So that was great, right? You had a bunch of kids getting together, fighting pollution, and they had these magic rings. They could all put them together, and a superhero would come out of the earth and basically save everything for them and defeat the baddies. It's great. Inspiring, probably led me to be a little bit closer down the path to where I am now than I was before I watched it. But the problem is that it's sort of the idea is you need superpowers to do something about this. And you don't need superpowers to change the world. You don't need superpowers to fight pollution. If we're going to do this, if we're going to deal with this problem of how are we going to make sure we have a nice world to live in, we all have to be able to contribute. So that doesn't really help. Oh, there we go. Straight on to the next one. So we might think, actually, that there's these guys, Parliament, government, they've got it all under control, right? They know what they're doing. How many of you think that? Oh, no one. There's stony silence for the record. No one said yes. Yeah, because basically we know what happens with these guys. They're asleep. They're asleep at the wheel. They're asleep at the very meeting where they're supposed to be sorting out climate change, which is this big problem we need to tackle together. And you might want to note, he's not wearing a mask either. Not like all of us here, we're being very good. So, we can't rely on government. Government's really an important part of this picture. We need governments to do things, but we can't trust them to do it by themselves. So what does that mean? Well, we can rely on these guys to sort it out for us. They'll get the governments to do it. Famous people. And famous people using their fame to do good things in the world is great. It really is. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant use of all of that attention they've got. But, getting their fans to sort of go, wow, isn't it great that we're doing something about, I don't know, refugees or climate change or the rights of and needs of women and girls. It's all really, really, really important. But it's not enough on its own. And we can't just go, well, we don't need to do it. We've liked Emma Watson's Instagram page. Yeah, that's not enough. And it's not something we can do, all of us. I mean, I don't know, maybe some of you are really, really famous. But for most of us, it's not how it works. So the other sort of way in which we think about this, we might want to do something, is doing these high-profile, dramatic stunts, which people like Greenpeace do. And they're really great at it, and they do really, really important work. But grown-ups, raise your hand if you would be happy with your young person climbing the Shard in London. Hey, okay, a few of you. But for most of us, I mean, I would be a bit worried if my children wanted to do that. I'd be like, oh, are you sure? So this isn't really something that everyone can do either. You have to be a really good athlete for a start. You need to train a lot. You need to have a big organisation behind you to pick up all the costs associated and to make sure you don't go to prison and all that sort of stuff, which does happen. Well, people don't go to prison, but they do get in trouble with the law. And not everyone can do that. And maybe it's not always a good idea to do that either. So where does that leave us? It leaves us maybe here. Who's this? Just shout. Greta. Yeah, we all know Greta. Now, why does everyone like Greta so much? Oh, there's grown-ups putting hands up there. Well, I think. Oh, okay. I'll go for this one. But it's good hands. Okay, no, go on. Go on. What do you think? She helps save the planet. Yeah, she does. She's really good about it. Oh, there's another big hand up there. Sorry, I have to go for the big hands. If they're that big, I have to go for them. Go on. Shout really loud. It is, yeah. We're okay. Well, the reason I like Greta so much is you don't need to do anything special to do the things that Greta does. I mean, Greta is special. We can hear what she had to say about the recent conference in Glasgow about climate change. But basically, the reason she's so great is she just says, all you have to do is not go to school. Yeah? And all of us can do that. We can all refuse to go to school. No, we can't. We can only do it when it's organised. But the point is you don't need to be able to climb a building. You don't need to be really, really famous to start with to take some action, to do something. Anyone can do it. And that's what Greta inspires. Now, we can just hear a little bit of Greta just because we like her so much. Here we go. She's wearing a mask. See that?
Thank you everyone for coming. What a great day. It is not a secret that COP26 is a failure. It should be obvious that we cannot solve a crisis with the same methods that got us into it in the first place. And more people are starting to realize this. Many are starting to ask themselves, what will it take for the people in power to wake up?
There we go. That's what we want. We want the people in power to wake up. We don't want them asleep. And Greta's on that with all of us. So, Greta is an activist. Now, what do we think? How would we define an activist? Is it someone who runs around a lot? No. Shout. No. Yes. Yeah. Is it a fancy type of yogurt your grown-up eats to help their stomach bacteria? No. Another pot of activists, please. No, not that. Is it someone who takes personal responsibility for making the world a better place? Yes. And who should that be? Us, all of us. Yeah, we should all do that. We can all do that if we listen to Greta and don't think we need to be really famous. So here are some other activists from history. So on that end, we've got Millicent Fawcett, and she helped women get the vote. Can you imagine that not that long ago, not even a little bit over 100 years ago, women weren't allowed to vote for politicians, only men. Can you imagine that? Boo, yeah, boo. That's terrible. But the reason why women now can vote, right, crazy that they ever couldn't, is because of activists. Because activists said, no, we want women to be able to vote. Do you know who the guy in the middle is? Shout out, someone. Gandhi. And what did Gandhi do? He got the British out of India. So Britain, this country, used to rule lots of countries all over the world, but it used to rule India, one of the biggest, most populous countries in the world. On what basis? Ooh, not a good one. So Gandhi kicked the British out, or helped to kick the British out. Right? And that's activism. That's people taking responsibility, bringing other people together with them to make the world a better place, to change things which they think are wrong. And, you know, it's not all in the past as well. This is like roughly when some of you might have been born then. Well, obviously your grown-ups were born then. But in 2010, 2011, ordinary people across the Middle East rose up together and kicked out dictators. Now, it didn't necessarily work out brilliantly in every case, but it showed that even now, if you get enough people together to say, no, this isn't right, the people in charge, or your tyrants, you can move them on and get someone else to be in charge, maybe even have a better way of governing a country. So, that's all activism. That's all different ways that the world has been changed for the better by people coming together and taking responsibility. All right, so that was a bit boring. That was a lecture, sorry. So let's go back to being noisy. Let's go back to reminding ourselves that this space is our space and we're in it together and it's for us. So what I'd like to do is teach you some chants. Now, when you go on any sort of, activists go on demonstrations and things like that, they all get together and they go and make a lot of noise somewhere, and we're going to just do a little bit of that now. So what I'd like to do is teach you a chant. Now, this side of the room is going to stay focused on the things that were really important to them, right? So we're going to go with cereal, yeah? So when I say, what do we want, you're going to say, cereal. And when do we want it? No, for breakfast. It's past cereal time. Okay, so what do we want? When do we want it? Brilliant. And on this side, we're going to do something, what are we going to go for? We're going to go for listening to the children, okay? And when do we want that to happen? Now, yeah, okay. So let's do a practice on this side. What do we want? When do we want that? Now, okay. Okay, when do we want it? Right, okay, so let's try this side again. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Okay, good, right. All together, what do we want? When do we want it? Yeah, I had no idea what you said there. You see, and that's kind of how politics works, right? So if everyone's making a lot of noise all the time about things they really care about, often it's hard to work out what it is that's going on. So if you're going to be an activist, if you're going to be a good activist, you're really going to make a difference, you're going to have to be a little bit cunning and a little bit clever. So when you lot are shouting really important things about listening to the children, and you guys are actually, it is quite important to have cereal, I admit, but maybe it's not as important as, say, climate change that you get Cheerios, right? Maybe that's not quite as important. So when you want to be an effective activist, you need to think of ways to cut through the noise. And we're going to think about that a little bit towards the end. Right. Before that, I'm going to give you a little bit more ideas about what activism is. So, 3 basic rules. There's lots more, but if I went more than 3, you'd get bored, so I'm going to stick with 3. The first one is to say, if fame and glory are what you're after, you're probably better to be an actor than an activist. So, when you're doing activism, it's really important to think about, are you saying, listen to this really important thing I'm talking to you about, or are you saying, listen to me? And if you're saying, listen to me, just go on stage. We all want to be entertained. It's really, really important, but maybe you're not doing activism for the right reasons. Now, a lot of the time now, we get huge numbers of people saying they're activists, particularly on social media, and sometimes that's not really about the activism, it's more about the performance itself. So we need to think a little bit about that before we start. The second thing to remember is winning is not always what you think it is. So a friend of mine was running events in Newham in East London, and they were trying to, help people who were not in the best of way to find their voice and to tell people what they needed to make their lives better. And this friend of mine, they would show up at these events, and all the people would bring their kids along. And it was great. It was like this really nice environment where people and children were all there and trying to work out, like, how they could make their lives better. But the kids were really quite noisier than you lot. You lot are really like quiet and well behaved. Well done. Need more noise, bit more noise. But these kids, they sort of made it hard for the meeting to happen. So someone stood up and said, look, I'm a singing teacher. Why don't I take all the kids into the other room and we can do some singing practice together. Now, the main meetings with the grown-ups, they went fine. They did lots of things. They made a difference in that area. But the kids, they became a choir and they sung at the Royal Albert Hall. Now, the point of that meeting was to help the people in Newham to find their voice. And the kids certainly made that look like winning. Yeah? So sometimes winning doesn't always look like you think it will. All right. The next thing is when you're doing anything which looks like activism, you're trying to be a bit Greta. The first thing you want to do is not come up with a great name or come up with a great logo. The first thing you want to do is probably make some lists. Lists of people who support you, lists of people who will oppose you, email addresses, anything that might help you make the difference that you want to make. Now, I would call that, if I was talking to my students, research, right? So to be a good activist, you need to do your research. You need to do your homework, dare I say it. Yeah? And that is what will make you effective. That is what will make a campaign succeed. So good lists are probably more important than good logos. So that's all well and good. And we all know that once you're going to be this great, amazing activist, you're going to change the world. And we've all heard Spider-Man, right? We all know that with great power comes great responsibility. But power, actually, sadly, doesn't grow on trees. And power is also really important. And we get a bit scared of power sometimes. We think, oh, that's a bit nasty. Power is something that mean people have or the government has, and it's not for us. But actually, power is really important. We have to think about power. We have to build power. We have to understand it if we want to make a difference in the world. So before we get to the Spider-Man problem, we've got to find out where that power is first. And this means that you've got to be an organizer before you're an activist, right? And being an organizer is something which is really, really close to my heart. It's like, this is how I understand all of this. There's a sort of an intellectual tradition, a sort of a practice tradition. I'm using bad words here. People have done this for a long time. That's what I'm trying to say. And you can learn a lot from them. And this is the guy that really inspired me when I read his book and I learned about his history and what he did. There's a guy called Saul Lelinski, and he started working in the 1930s in America. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a sec. But his thing was, and I tried to do his voice, and I'm not going to try and do his voice again. It's he sort of speaks very softly but firmly, and I can't quite manage it. But he said, I never thought about walking on the grass until I saw a sign that says, keep off the grass, and then I stomped all over it, right? He's that kind of guy. He's a rebel, right? But he's a good rebel. He's a thoughtful rebel, and he's a rebel who worked very closely with lots of different people and listened to them very carefully. So he started in 1930s in Chicago, and in Chicago at the time it was very, very poor. There'd been this huge disaster with the economy. Everything has collapsed, and people were really struggling. They didn't have jobs. It was hard to get food. It was a bad time. And so he worked in an area of Chicago where lots of poor people from different backgrounds, well, everyone was kind of poor at that time, who didn't normally get along, lived. And he got them to get along with one another. He worked through churches. He worked through trade unions and shops and those sorts of things to bring people together to work together. They set up councils. They organised food kitchens. They got people back into work, and it was really, really effective. And they made this area, which had previously been sort of a bit rubbish to live in, really, really fun and really good to live in, where people looked after each other. And this was the birth of something called community organising. And it still happens today, and that organisation, Saul Lelinski's organisation, the Industrial Areas Foundation, still exists in the US, and they still host huge meetings, and they still do the work in the same way. They work with people who are in areas that are struggling a bit. They challenge ideas like racism in a really big way. They challenge inequality, and they're still really, really effective. And you can see sort of the size of the meetings they get in the top corner are massive. So these people really inspire me. And they also inspired someone else. Who's this? Who knows who that is? Shout. Barack Obama, right? So the first president of the United States, the first African-American president, rather, of the United States, came through this tradition, came through the community organizing tradition. And there he is, just out of university, working in the similar sorts of areas in Chicago that Saul Lelinski did. And there he is, fighting against climate change. So this is an important tradition for people who want to change the world, right? If you want to learn how to do it really, really well, listen to the people who've been doing it really, really well for a long time. Okay, so that's how we're going to get power. We're going to learn from the community organisers. We're going to go to places. We're going to get people to talk to one another, to listen to one another, to be able to say in their own voices what's important to them and what do they need. And this is what it looks like. Missed slide. This is what it looks like now. So this is in the UK. This is community organising in the UK with an organisation called Citizens UK. And they've done a number of really, really big things. So a few weeks ago, there was something called the Living Wage Week. And the living wage, the idea that you should only have to work one job to be able to afford a house and a home and food and that sort of thing. That comes out of community organising and Citizens UK. And this is a campaign they're running at the moment. That's saying that children who want to live in the UK, they shouldn't have to pay basically nearly £1,000 just to have their application looked at. Children shouldn't have to pay to fill out a form to say we want the right to live here. Because often the people who are filling out those forms don't have a lot of money to start with. So this is happening now, it's happening in the UK, and it's really great and effective still. Okay, so we've got our power. Now we need to think about how to use it. Now, you might have done this a little bit. You might have got some friends together. You worked out what you care about. You want to do something really, really important. So now you have to work out how to use that power that you've got as effectively as possible. Now, sometimes that might be going on a march, and you go and march, and you go outside the council, and you say, we want this. What do we want? More cereal. When do we want it? For lunchtime too. We might do that. But we might try and think of some other ways to use the power that we've got really effectively. And Saul Lelinski came up with these really fun ways of thinking about using the power that he's got, which was normally just people's bodies, because they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of access to other resources. They were just them as a group trying to do something. So one example, and I'm going to show you what that might have looked like. One example is he was campaigning against a company which had some sort of quite unpleasant employment practices. And he'd got organised people from the surrounding area together, and they worked out that the wives, this is in the 1960s, it was still very sexist, the wives of all the business executives went to this fancy music hall to hear classical music concerts. So they were like, right, what we're going to do is we're going to buy out all the tickets for the concert venue, and, well, not all of them, 100 tickets, and we're going to get 100 people to go to the concert, and we're going to feed them all baked beans first. They're going to spend the whole day eating baked beans, and then they go in, and they're going to sit down, behave themselves in every other way except for what happens when you eat baked beans. Yeah, someone say a little bit louder. You fart. Yeah, so it would have been a little bit like this. Yay! So you've got to think cleverly about using the resources that you've got, the power that you've got to make the difference that you want to see. Okay, so now we're going to try and do that today. We're going to think about something that's really close to home in Norfolk. I've got Frisbee the seal up on the screen there, but we've got to think about what we would do to save and help Frisbee. Or let's think about this a little bit more broadly, what we do about the fact that there's loads and loads and loads of plastic rubbish going into our seas still. What would we do here, as those of us here, what could we do about it, right? Oh, there's hands up already, but I'm going to ask you some specific questions first. So what we've got here, and this is a classic technique, right? It comes from community organising. When you want to think about how you're going to make a difference, what you do is you do a little map of what's going on, a map of the issue, of who's important and who can do something. And it normally looks like this. So you've got power to do something here. So if you're up at this end of this line, you're really, really powerful, and you can just click your fingers and make the problem go away. And if you're down here, you're probably really struggling with it, and there's not a lot you can do. Yeah? So Really, really powerful, can sort it out straight away. Really, really difficult, don't know what I'm doing, or can't do very much. Over here, we've got, well, I'm against you. I don't really care about plastic in the seas or climate change or whatever. So these are people who are against you, and these are people who are supporting you on this side, right? So we've got this big cross here. Up here, do something about it. Down here, can't do anything. Over here on our side, over here against, right? So let's think of some people in the scenario of Frisbee the Seal, people who can do something about it, and let's start to put them on the board. Yeah. Boris Johnson. Wow, there we go. There he is. It's almost like I read your mind, isn't it? Okay, so where are we gonna put Boris? Is he gonna go where? In the bin. Okay, well, that might be something you can work up to later. But right now, let's just have him symbolising prime ministers in general, because I'm detecting some very strong feelings in the room. So where do we think he is? On our cross here, where do we think we're going to put him? Oh, young man just there, where do you think? In this corner? Yeah, I think, to be honest, I don't think he's really thinking about Frisbee the Seal very much. So I think he might be about there. I think he's probably not all the way over there. He's not probably actively going, oh, let's put more plastic in the sea. But he's probably not that bothered about it. But he can certainly do something about it. Do you think? Yeah? Okay, so, oh, yeah, young lady. The Queen, well, she does own the shoreline, I guess. But let's roll the Queen in with Boris Johnson just for now. And that's not because you're wrong, it's because I don't have a picture. So yeah, okay, who else do we want over there? We've been in that area. Over there, yeah, you. Ladder? Greta Thunberg. Yeah, so what we could do is we could say that's like people who already campaign on these sorts of things. I mean, Greta's kind of mostly about climate change. She probably does really care about Frisbee, but it's probably not like her main thing. Yeah? So we can put people who already do campaigning. So we can put Greenpeace. Now, where do we think Greenpeace go on our map? Yeah? You don't know. Good hand though, confident. Yeah? Near Boris Johnson? Do we think? Okay, I think Greenpeace probably agree with us, right? But the way Greenpeace work is they spend ages working up their campaign and doing stuff. Now, they have actually done quite a lot on ocean plastics, so they definitely do agree with us, but they haven't sorted it out completely, so we can't put them too high up, because they're not the people who fix it in the end, right? They're the people who get us all thinking about it. Oh, no. Let's try this again. Here we go. And... right, who else? What else? At the back, yeah, you. Clive Lewis. Yeah, so we've got other politicians. We've got Parliament. Yeah, we like Clive. Clive can do stuff. And they probably have not quite as much power as Boris Johnson, and there's probably quite a mixed bag. I'm sure Clive would really agree with us, but not necessarily... it's not necessarily the number one thing he's interested in at the moment. Okay, let's think a little bit closer to home. Let's think a little bit about, you know, where we're going to start. Oh, there's a young lady there. What did you say? The local community. Yeah. So we're gonna have this one as our local community. Now, where do we think the local community go? Near the bottom. Someone shouted near the bottom. Yeah. So. They probably do care about the seals. They probably don't have a lot of power to do much about it. I mean, people who live by the coast, or, you know, we can volunteer to go and help clean up the beaches, but they can go there. At the back there, we can do something. Yes, us. Now, I know there's a lot of grown-ups here too, but we're going to represent us as children who care about it, right? We all care about Frisbee the Seal, don't we? I'm just assuming that. Can anyone who really objects to helping Frisbee? No? Okay, we're all right. Okay, so there we are. We're down there, and we really agree, but we're only children, so there's not a lot we can do about it. Now, Who might be against doing something about this? Sorting out plastics in the sea. So I heard someone say shells, shout really loud. Go on. Yeah. Companies, yeah, the plastics industry. They probably don't want their plastics to end up in the sea, but they also probably don't want to have to do really expensive things like put lids on the ships which carry the plastics around. You know, literally, some of them don't have that, right? So they're going to be against us, and they probably have quite a lot of power to fix this stuff too if they wanted to. So, there we go. This is our map, so we know all the different people who are in play here. But we've got to think a little bit about what we need to do. So what we need is a strategy, right? And a strategy, basically, is the bit you do before the tactics. Before you go and sit in the concert hall and start, eating baked beans, the thing you need is a strategy of what you're going to do. So I'm gonna give this one to you. So what you need to do is, you need to get this lot here, right, to get these people more powerful, right? So we, in this room, we're going to work with our local communities, with our local communities, we're still there, honestly, with our local communities, think about ways to use tactics to make ourselves more powerful, to get Boris Johnson and Parliament to listen to us. Now, that might be doing things like, ordinary things, like signing petitions. It might be doing things like going on demonstrations, on marches, and all of those things are really important and valuable. Or it might be, given that we're in Norfolk and we're near the coast, it might be doing something really creative and wonderful on the beaches to try and get people to think about what we're doing and to make us more effective. So, by these guys, probably through their grown-ups, organising these guys to make them more powerful, and maybe then getting someone like Clive Lewis or Chloe Smith involved to get these guys further over here. Oh, look, there we are. That's not a metaphor. I'm not trying to cover up society by government. It's not more important. And then these guys will all complain to this guy who might wake up and do something about it. So then you move him over here, and that is pretty much how you win campaigns. Now, the important bit there, the really difficult bit, the reason why everything's not just instantly fixed as soon as, you watch this lecture, is the tactics are tricky and they're really, really important. And you need to spend time and energy, do your research, think about them carefully, get together with all your friends to make it all work. But that is basically how change always happens, pretty much. Governments don't make up what's important to them. They follow the popular demands, and that's what we need to do. We need to make good popular demands of government with good tactics. You've had your hand up for ages. What's your question? The seal project. Yeah, so there are people already doing stuff specifically about seals, and there's a wonderful seal sanctuary, I think in Hunstanton, where they take care of the 6 seals. I think I've got that right. But I was using Frisbee as sort of illustrative of all sorts of things. Yeah, we'll take one more question, and then I'll go to my last slide, because I need to make time for the next wonderful lecture. Go on, if you go. Sorry? Team C's, yeah, Team C's, they're great too. We've got some really, really good things going on. All right, just one more, because the hand's up, and go on. You want to help Frisbee? Brilliant. Yeah, let's find ways to help Frisbee. Let's get plastics out of our ocean. That's a great thing to do. Okay. All right, so this is it. These are the steps you need to take. It's simplified, but it's right. If you want to make a difference in the world, this is what you've got to do. You've got to find lots of friends. You name your target. You work out who you need to check, who you need to influence. You make your demands really clear. This is what we want. You do something surprising together. That can be turning up with a huge number of people in the street, or it could be farting in a concert hall. And then you win. And that's how it works. Hey! Okay. So that's me, and those are my image credits. Thank you very much. You've been a lovely audience.
Thank you, Ben. Amazing.